everyone, we are from group 5 and then the group member is the first Nelvi Andriana, the second Nur Afifah, and the last Sindi Rahmawati. We will explain the course Introduction to Economic Development. Okay everyone, we will explain the material, the first, Trade and Economic Development Policy, and the second, policies outside the education system and internal policies of the education system. Okay everyone, I will explain the first material, Trade and Economic Development Policy. Economic globalization and introduction. Core economic meaning: the increased open of economic to international trade, financial flow, and foreign direct investment. International trade. Some key issues. The first, many developing countries rely heavily on export of primary products with attendant risks and uncertainty. The second, many developing countries also rely heavily on imports, typically of machinery, capital goods, intermediate producer goods, and consumer products. And the third, many developing countries have chronic deficit on current and capital account with depleted their reserve, cause currency instability and may slow economic growth. And the last, recently many developing countries sought to promote export and accumulate large foreign exchange reserve to caution and against Greece, spurring new policy debates. The traditional theory of international trade. The first main conclusion of the neoclassical model is that all countries gain from trade, and the second, world output increase with trade, and the third, countries will tend to specialize in products that use their abundant resource intensively, and the fourth, international wage rates and capital costs will gradually tend toward equalization, and the fifth, return to owner of abundant resources will rise relatively, and the last, trade will stimulate economic growth.
Trade theory and development. The traditional arguments. The first is trade stimulates economic growth. Trade promotes international and domestic equality. Trade promotes and rewards sector of comparative advantage. International price and cost of production determine trade volumes. And the last is outward-looking international policy is superior to isolation. The critique of traditional free trade theory in the context of development country experience, like Potter competitive advantage theory. The first is traditional trade theory applies only to basic factors like unskilled labor, physical resources. The next is but creation of advanced factor like knowledge, resources, specialist infrastructure is the first priority. The next is central task to escape from the strike checkout of factor-driven national advantage. Traditional trade strategy for development. Export promotion versus import substitution. The first is export promotion, like looking outward and saying trade barriers. The next is primary commodity export expansion, limited demand, low income elasticities, low population growth rates in development economies, decline in price implies low revenue, some period of price peak, including recent years, but very long-run trend has been downward. The next is lack of success with international commodity agreement, development of scientific substitutes and agricultural substitutes, primary commodity export expansion, superiorities, expanding export of manufactured goods, great success, particularly China's unevenly distributed actor of developing world. Trade policies of development countries, the need for reform and resistance to new protectionist pressure, like rich national economy and commercial policies matter for developing countries, like tariff and non-tariff barriers to developing countries' exports, adjustment assistance for displaced workers, and general impact of economic policy. The next is World Trade Organization. And despite a liberation run over 50 years, trade barriers remain in place in agriculture and through various mechanisms to a degree in other sectors. The last is Doha Development Round began 2001 little the nominal focus to meet of development goals, but talk remains still through the end of 210 a self-imposed deadline.
The next is policies outside the education systems and internal policies of the education systems. First, we must know means of education's policy. Education policy consists of the principles and government policy in the education sphere as well as the collections of law and rules that govern the operations of education systems. Education occurs in many forms for many purposes through many institutions. Examples include early childhood education, kindergarten through to 12th grades, 2 and 4 years college or university, graduate and professional educations, adults education and jobs training. Therefore, education policies and directly affect the education people engage in at all age. And the next is policies. Policies are written rules which are formal organizational decisions which are binding in the nature, which regulates behavior with the aim of creating new values in society. Policies will be the main reference for members of the organizations or community members in their behavior. And the next is policies outside the education systems. Output is the finished material produced by the transformations. What is meant in this discussion is the students who graduate from the school concerned. To be able to determine whether a student has the right to pass or not. An assessment activity needs to be held as a quality filtering tool. The output of education is the performance of the school. School performance is school achievement that results from school process or behaviors. School performance can be measured by its quality, effective, productivity, efficiency, innovations, quality of work life and work morals. And the next is internal policies of the education systems. Input is the raw materials that is inserted into transformations. In the world of schools, what is meant by raw materials are prospective students who are just about to enter school. Before entering school levels or institutions, prospective students are assessed first for their ability. With the assessments, it is when to know whether one day he will be able to attend the lessons and carry out the tasks that will be given to him. Educational input is anything that must exist and is available because it is needed for a process to take place. In order to achieve quality, functional, productive, effective, and accountable education, several things are needed related to input, which include student, manpower, facility, costs, curriculum planning and evaluations, school community relations, and an adequate school climate.
Okay everyone, thank you for your attention. So I hope you understand our material. See you next week. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.